folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we are doing another movie review. This is The Hole in the Ground. Released in 2019, directed by Lee Cronin. And it's an Irish horror film. The film stars Sienna Kerslake, James Quinn Markey, and Katie Outinen. So Sienna plays this young mother by the name of Sarah O'Neill with her young son, this little boy named Christopher. And they are just moving to this quiet little quaint countryside town in Ireland. And we see them on the way. They see them driving down this long, narrow countryside. And you get this big, sweeping overhead shot that reminds me so much of The Shining, that Stanley Kubrick direction, followed by that mysterious, ominous music. And I get a lot of Stanley Kubrick vibes in this movie, Not that the film is anything like a Kubrick film, but the directional style has some similarities. So on the way, they almost get in a big, huge accident. They almost run over this old lady who's dressed in this long black cloak, looking very mysterious and, whispering to herself, whispering gibberish nonsense, seems very creepy. But eventually they gather themselves together and get back home. But once they get back home, they get in a little bit of an argument, a little bit of tiff about, why didn't my father come with us? Why didn't he move with us? And the mother's like, I'm sorry, it's complicated. Obviously they got divorced or something. They never really get into it in the movie, but I imagine they got divorced, So that's why it's complicated, obviously. So what happens is, the son gets mad and runs off into the woods just behind the house, this big, huge forest, and the mother kind of storms after him and tries chasing him, trying to find him, and eventually she does find him right next to this big, huge, massive sinkhole, like the size of a football field, looks like the tar pits in Return of the Jedi or something. It's like, you do not want to go in there, something bad's gonna happen. But he's okay, and they go back home, and they find out throughout the film that the old lady had a traumatic event. She went and claimed to everybody that her son, she had a son similar in age to Chris. And she kept saying, screaming, that's not my son, that's not my son. And the son was run over, and a lot of people think in town that she killed him, that she ran him over, because she thought he was an imposter, And then as the film goes on, we see that the mother has a lot of anxiety issues as well, and she sees a doctor for it, and she gets prescribed medication for that. And, she starts to have, she starts to see things that aren't really there, she has some hallucinations, And at the same time, her son kind of disappears again, where'd he go in the middle of the night? And he just disappears, so she goes out to the forest once again. This time it's pitch black out, and she's got nothing but a flashlight. I think that's the scariest part in the film for me, because I can't imagine in the pitch black going into this huge forest not seeing a damn thing. You just got a little dinky little flashlight. I mean, anything could be in there. It could be any kind of insects or wild animals, or it could be a bear, it could be a coyote in there. You're not going to see a damn thing. So that's the part that scared me, and it's filmed so well, so beautifully, that you get that fear, the same fear that I think I would have trying to do that, chase after somebody in the woods and you can't see anything. So I love that. It's a brilliant scene. But she can't find him, she tries hard, but she can't find him, so she storms back to her house, and she's just about to call the police when she sees, bam, he's right there. Her son is there, he seems fine, but it's like, and he says, I've been here the whole time. She's like, no, you have not, But, guess he's alright, but as the film goes on, we see that he starts acting strange. His behaviors are nothing like the son was previously. He just does things that are out of character. Like for example, he was deathly afraid of spiders, but then we see the mother hearing weird stuff coming through his room, so she kind of spies on him, looks through the keyhole, and sees him pick up a spider and eat it, it's like crunching, munching on it, like, ugh. Like, yeah, this is not right, and then again, like I said, she's been taking her medication, so she starts seeing some weird stuff going on, so it's like you wonder, is there really something wrong with the child? Is it just in her mind because she's been taking the medication, and that's what I thought was really interesting about the film. It's like, is this happening, or is it all in her head, I like that, But then, she starts to say, she starts believing that this is not my son, there's something wrong, so she starts trying to find out what's going on. Is it something to do with that big mysterious sinkhole? What's going on with that hole? Is there something mysterious about it? Is there something underneath there, inside the hole, that, something happened to him? Like maybe he fell in the hole and it affected him and it changed him? Or is he an imposter? What was he replaced somehow with a clone or something? And that's how the movie starts to play out. Is it really him, or I know this isn't him? What are we gonna do about it? I gotta find out what's going on. So she starts becoming friends with the husband of Noreen. She runs into Noreen, and Noreen says the same thing. That's not your son, And then she kind of gets to know her husband. Her husband just thinks she's off the wall, and, tries to tell her that, no, she's just crazy. She's off the wall. I ran my son over by accident because he stormed out in the middle of the road out of nowhere, But as the film goes on, you start to see, maybe he doesn't really believe that either, Maybe he did believe there was something wrong with the son, that it wasn't really him. Something happened. So, yeah, I think this is definitely a good, scary, solid, kind of low-budget horror film, and it's great to see a horror film like this coming out of Ireland. We don't really hear of too many Irish horror films coming out, but lately there have been, actually, in recent years, but that hasn't always been the case, So it's great to see a great horror film like this done by the Irish, So I definitely recommend the film, because as it goes, there's definitely some weird, bizarre stuff, and it goes in some wild places that you would not expect. It may seem on the surface that this is just a typical, bad kid movie like The Omen, or The Good Son, or The Bad Seed, or The Orphan, and there is some of that kind of stuff in there for sure, because he does some weird, bizarre, bad, stuff like that, But it turns out to be something completely different to that, so be prepared for something wild and out there, some maybe into the realm of supernatural a little bit, But at any rate, I highly recommend the film. I think it's a very solid film, and it's a great effort by Lee Cronin. I believe this was his full feature-length directorial debut, and he does an excellent job. So I definitely recommend The Hole in the Ground. Check it out, from 2019, directed by Lee Cronin. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. evening, folks, and we got some brand new merchandise for you over at www.thehorrorkona.com, and that's CONA.com. Representing the Horror Corner. Great new design. We got the Morbid Hour live stream there, you got the Horror Hangout live stream there, and you got my nemesis, the Dark Fate. So grab your t-shirt over at www.thehorrorkona.com. And we also got this beautiful new mug. Look at that. Very, very cool. Thought that came out really nice. So grab your merchandise today over at www.thehorrorkona.com. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have, perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.